Well, it says we're live, so all right. Welcome from the Crossroads of America, talk show about guns, politics, or anything else that crosses my mind. Excuse me. We'll answer questions from the audience, either in the chat or email me at rickslife as I see it at gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. I have a Patreon page. Also, I have a one-time payment thing using PayPal if you don't want to use Patreon. And then all the other information is all down there in the information on YouTube there. So I must admit I have been really bad lately. I mean, because I have a Instagram account, I have a Twitter account, and I have something else. I can't remember which one it is now. I rarely ever use them. So I do apologize. So anyway, let me say hello to the people in the chat so far. Who we got? First in was Gun Loving Grandpa. Then Guns and Barbecue. Mystic Guns. Who else we got here? Jason Stewart. Who else is coming? Clover Tech. Ozzy Osbourne. So far, people are just starting to come in. It's Saturday afternoon. I don't know about the rest of the country, but it's beautiful here right now. The sun's shining. It's about 80 degrees. So I think it's going to be a nice Memorial Day weekend. Oh, Rich White's in. That's good. Let me introduce my panel that I have so far. I'm hoping others will show up. We got Guns and Barbecue. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Yourself?
Not bad, thanks. And we got the New York Outcast.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me.
And we got the one and only Clover Tech.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thanks, Rick.
No problem. No problem. Anyway, as in my title, I got nothing. I mean, for the last sort of 6 weeks, we've done nothing but talk about the coronavirus, how it has affected us and all this, and I didn't want to talk about it today. But if somebody brings it up, I will, but I wasn't going to do it. I did notice, though, a couple of things. I was looking around, and I saw that I didn't see this on Wednesday, but I only read it today. Wednesday, President Trump yanked the nomination for the chief of the ATF because he wouldn't commit that he was pro-gun, basically. People kept asking him his views, and he kept saying, my views go along with the, what they call it, the Federation of Police, whatever that thing is called. But he wouldn't admit what his position was. So, in the end, Trump's pulled him now. So, hopefully we'll get somebody at the ATF who actually does a decent job. But then again, I think they should get rid of the ATF, in my opinion. But
there's some good news, though. At least he's proactive not to, set somebody in without knowing what was going on. So I think that's a good move on him.
Yeah. Oh, Kevin in New York says it's raining. So
raining for me too. Just started.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that's good. I mean, because right now, I think the Supreme Court should get involved in this because it's wrong that right now the ATF can change the law with a stroke of a pen without anybody, without the government. I mean, because Congress has meant the ATF shouldn't have that kind of power. And unfortunately, with the one bad thing that President Trump did when he told the Justice Department to tell the ATF to change the definition of a bump stock, basically it's opened the floodgates. They'll be able to do what they want. And they've already done it on some firearm, and I can't remember which one it was. I was reading something about it. I didn't understand what gun it was, but they redefined it as something. Maybe it was one class of machine gun to another class of machine gun. I'm not sure, but I was, I was confused.
What happens with a lot of this is language changes, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that the founders had was that we would be intelligent enough people that we would realize that when we read the language of the Declaration, the Constitution, of any legislation that's written, and also when we're writing said legislation as well, that we would be intellectually sound enough, I guess would be the word, to realize that you go by the original definition intended when that particular document was written, right?
Right.
And so what happens is they've utilized this loophole for years, and I don't know if it would require a constitutional convention to, amend the Constitution to add an amendment to say quit doing this, knock this off, or what. But it's a loophole that long ago they figured out. They're like, oh, well, since we can't change the legislation or the Constitution or this document, we'll just change the definition because this means something totally different nowadays, right? Assault weapon, for example, that used to really mean something, and now they call everything an assault weapon. And it's one of the things where when you change the definitions and you control it, and read 1984, I guess, but if you change the definitions and control the language, you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, you're right there. So, you guys, Guns or New York, you got any input on this?
Well, no, I agree with Clover in a sense. Depending how things are interpreted, depends what happens. I'm not a fan of anything where it comes down to interpretation in a sense, because obviously, in my opinion, that all falls back to a matter of opinion.
Yeah, you're right though. I mean, that's a lot of things. That's like interpretation, and good example is our Second Amendment. The word militia and regulated.
Yeah.
When they were written, meant different to what they're meant today. And that's one of the big problems. People don't understand that. They need to pull out a dictionary and understand what those words actually meant when that was written.
I agree, but at the same time, shall not be infringed is pretty much the same as what it was back then.
You're right. I don't know.
For the fear of going all night strike on you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
That's a great point, though. It really is. In my opinion, it is. It's so simple. It makes you question some of these other people. So it makes me wonder why they're even in.
Another good example.
Understand something that easy.
Another good example on that same principle is everybody knows I'm in a 12-step program, and if you read one of the co-founders' personal stories, he's talking about the day that he got sober, that he went into the bar. And the gaiety that was going on was he wanted to drink so bad. But today that word is totally changed. Back then, gay meant having a great time, and stuff like this. Today it's used to describe a certain sexual orientation, So, that's what's happening. The definition is used. The words are changing. The way people are reading stuff, interpret stuff. Even a good example when what was it last year? Oh, whatever year it was when the national reciprocity bill was going through the House and stuff, and people said, "Well, what about the states that won't issue them and stuff like this?" And the way it was worded, the way I interpret it said, as long as you had a license from somewhere that was good, it would be good in your state. because the way the comma was in there or the period, and people said, no, that isn't what it means. So, I mean, all this stuff, as I said, is interpretation, how you read it, I guess. But I guess that's what the courts are for, isn't it? To sort them out?
Yeah, well, like they were trying to push in New York, where you have to pay to go see a psychologist every time you want to get a new firearm. It's a lot of interpretation in my, a lot of somebody's opinion and whatnot, which is it's pretty scary because who makes that final call?
How did that one come out? Was it ever voted on?
Honestly, I don't know. Informed.
Yeah. Another thing I noticed, I was reading down in Alabama, moms demand action, miffed about a rifle raffle to help small businesses. They said that shouldn't be done. You shouldn't raffle rifles. The rifle could get into the wrong hands, And the people who were doing the raffle said every gun that's won that person has to go through a background check at a firearm license shop, gun store. So there's no problems of it. I mean, the person doesn't pass, he doesn't get the rifle. And it's and they tried to explain that to her, but she said, "Well, you shouldn't be doing guns. It's just not right." She goes,
Sounds like she just has something against guns.
She's just merely being anti-gun. What they told her to do was go protest outside the small shops, saying, "Don't shop here because they're raffling guns."
Oh, come on now. She's just doing what she's got to do to get a paycheck. Come on.
Oh yeah. I mean, the article says she ought to phone up Michael Bloomberg to get some money off him so she can buy all the tickets up.
There you go.
She can win the rifles and melt them all.
Right. Put your money where your mouth is. Right.
Yeah. I just happened to read that one. I thought it was kind of funny, but it's amazing what's going on. So, who else has joined us here now? Let's have a look. Oh God, I lost my page. I lost it there. Oh, here we go. We've got Squibs joined us. Squibload, how you doing? He must be out in the garden again because he's got the muted. Then we got Kingpin. How you doing?
What's happening, everybody? Thanks for having me, Rick.
No problem. You got we're just talking about I don't know. I'm just rambling, to be honest with you. Oh, there is one thing I wanted to talk about. I don't know if you guys read it. I mean, it's only small, but I'm hoping it's an indication how things are going to go. Is you read an article like Virginia, the town councils that have been Democratic forever flipped to Republican in this past election on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if that's an indication of what it's going to be like, I mean, because normally Virginia always goes Democrat. The whole state does because of the amount of people it has in the big cities.
Right.
But it might go red this time.
It's interesting that you mentioned that. I was reading some stuff a couple of days ago talking about California. And it was talking about, with all the craziness with the shutdowns. And I mean, people in California are fed up. And they were parsing the numbers, and they, in California, and I'm sure if we got people out there from California, I mean, chime in the chat or whatever. You probably feel this way, but they were saying that California can absolutely flip red, and that it's like 46% Democrat, registered Democrat, 27% Republican, or something like that. And people say, "Oh, it'll never flip." But the problem is the remaining like 27%, they don't tell anybody who they're associated with, right? And the reason is because that could be damaging to their jobs or where they live or whatever. They're closet Republicans in a way. And they said that with all of the stuff going on, not allowing businesses to open and businesses closing, and all the controversy surrounding all this stuff and everything else, that more and more people are becoming more vocal about it. And if they take that to the polls, then I don't know, we could actually see a red California,
which would be amazing.
Wouldn't that be weird?
Yeah, it would be. Mind you, I think Trump's going to win Michigan again. Because they're not.
What Clover was talking about is why I have a problem with the people who've been protesting in my state, in Michigan. They turn them into political rallies. Now, look, as much as I hear all this bull about, oh, there's all these Democrats that are pro-Second Amendment, you just got to welcome them into the fold. I ain't seen one yet. All right? But the shutdown orders, not just in my state, but in every state, everybody's ticked off, except for a few people that have swallowed the flavor aid. Everybody is ticked off. So if you turn the rally at the state capitol to say, in this order now, into a Republicans only, then that's what you're going to have. And you're going to have a Democrat governor use that against the protesters. But if you say no politics, everybody's invited. And if somebody goes, well, what about the 2A rallies you go to? Those have got Republican this, Republican that. That's because ain't no Democrats going to show up, even if we did drop all that stuff and invite them, because they don't care. So if enough people are fed up, there are lots of people who voted for my governor who are pissed off at her. Maybe they just don't vote. Maybe they just go, screw it. I won't even show up to vote. If I can't vote for a Republican because I'm hardcore Democrat, but I'm not reelecting her, well, then that's just giving the Republicans another vote. Not saying the Republicans are angels either. I've always called them the lesser of two evils.
Yep.
But if that happens here in our state in 2.5 years when we have an election, maybe it could happen in California. And I've caught some flack from some people because it's like, oh, you're not standing up for this and you're siding with the governor and all kinds of, and it's like, no. I call it the way I see it. I think that the people in my state have mismanaged the protests and given themselves a bad appearance, you could say. I also think our governor is doing nothing to really help the problem. I think they're both wrong. And some people, they don't see it that way, and that's fine. Everybody has a right to their opinion. But are there people in California that are looking at it something like this too? I voted for this person, but I can't stand behind what they're doing. But on the other hand, I'm also not going to go on national TV and make an ass out of myself.
Well, we always talk about the mythical people in the middle. It's always the middle. You got
Kingpin?
You got your diehard
I
Republican.
lost you.
Can you guys hear me?
I can.
Disconnected.
No?
Oh,
You're loud and clear, Kingpin.
I think Rick's going deaf.
it must be me losing connection. I didn't hear a word you said.
But, we always talk about the people in the middle. And, you got your hardcore Republicans that no matter what, if they burn the White House down, they're going to vote Republican. Then they got your hardcore Democrats that if they burn the White House down, you're going to vote Democrat. So just focusing on these people in the middle, we always assume that they're level-headed and that they either just aren't really involved or don't really care that much, or try to find the best candidate for what that was happening for them. All the stuff that we talk about, the people in the middle. You think the people in the middle are thrilled in California that they can't walk on dry sand, but they can walk on wet sand? They can jog on the beach, but they can't sit on the beach. That one crazy lady that said you can't play doubles tennis, and unless you come from the same house, you can't touch the other person's tennis balls. Squibs lady up there can't buy paint, but you can buy a paintbrush. So we're gonna assume that all these people in the middle that we think can be swayed back and forth are just okay with all this absolute ridiculousness going on. I don't think so. I think that there's a major push toward the right side. I consider it more the conservative side because, the term right has been corrupted since World War II. But those people aren't stupid. Those people aren't going to. All those people that are out of business now for no reason. All those people that are unemployed right now for no reason. Are they, they're going to just keep voting for Democrats, or they're going to vote for Democrats. Now, some of them probably orange man bet. So they just, whatever Donald Trump says or does is wrong, and they're going to vote against him. But I think there's a whole lot of sensible people out there that are tired of getting punked.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope you are right. Because well, if you ain't voting for Biden, you ain't black.
Well, there's a perfect example. There's a whole bunch of black folk out there that are pretty pissed off that he said that, whether he was joking or whether he wasn't. Then you got the walk away movement. You got the gays for Trump movement, the Latinos for Trump, all these different kinds of things. And Trump is just the name. I always said this was never about Donald Trump in the first place. This was always about us and what kind of future we're going to have. And people want a future that's positive and light. They don't want a future where Bernie Sanders decides whether they're going to get $1,000 check this week or not, and whether they can drive a car or have a dog or, eat a hamburger. The left will destroy itself. We don't have to destroy. The left will destroy itself, and it's doing that. The biggest problem is we're all going to be stuck here to clean up the mess afterwards.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I'm hoping they destroy themselves. It sounds like it, but then, as you said, there's always diehards. I was reading an article, about Biden. Doesn't matter what he says, we're still going to vote for him because we got to get the president, the orange man out of the White House.
And right there's a huge, huge, huge example that's going to affect anybody who has any common sense whatsoever. These newspapers are putting out headlines that say, I believe Tara Reid, but I'm still voting for Biden. So let me rewrite that. I believe a rapist. I believe this woman was raped, but I'm going to vote for her rapist. That's people see that and are like, are you crazy? 5 minutes ago, you said that you believe Tara Reid, and she said that Joe Biden grabbed her by the you-know-what, which was a huge big deal when Donald Trump said it. He actually supposedly did it, and you believe that he did it, but you're going to vote for him. And then you're still going to go out and protest and tell me how much I'm supposed to believe women and how much the patriarchy and toxic masculinity and rape culture. People aren't stupid. There's a whole bunch of uninformed. There's a whole bunch of people who just don't care or don't. This isn't important to them. They don't care what happens in politics. They're busy doing their own thing. And this this news creeps into their houses too. And they see, wait a second, you think Joe Biden raped that woman, but you still want him to be the president? I can't get with that.
Yeah, I can't either, but there's some out there, so I don't know. It's scary. I'm still a bit scared what's going to happen in November, especially the way they're trying to push this vote by mail.
Amen. Yep. Yeah, the whole elections, the way the elections are run and stuff, that's what worries me big time. We've got enough fraud and shenanigans and everything else going on, and you open it up to American Idol style text voting or some weird thing, email online. Look at how much the Social Security Administration and these government agencies are online that get hacked all the freaking time. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, and what worries me is that they're going, it's safe. Because every ballot is addressed to the person who's registered, voter. So it goes to them. They sign it, comes back. But when it comes back, what about the person who's sitting there opening these envelopes up and it says Republican and he hits the Democrat button?
Well, that would, if you had a legit recount, and if things work, I don't know if things work the way that recounts and things like that work here in at least my county. you know, you've got representatives from both sides that go through and recount. And I mean, you'd be able to tell stuff like that. What you wouldn't be able to tell, and we already know this happens over and over and over, how many dead people are on the voter registration rolls. So how many dead people are going to be sent ballots that some random person there just fills it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe they fill out an extra one. You know what I mean? They're getting one for them. They're getting one for their dead grandmother, and they're getting one for their dead grandfather. And so they get 3 votes, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Then, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, I believe that we should have voter ID. Personally, myself.
We talked about that last night on Budget Show. In Maryland, you know, I know there's a bunch of other states that are just as corrupt, but I live here, so I can tell you for a fact what happens. When you walk in to get your driver's license, first, real quick, 2016, when I went in to vote, I pulled my driver's license out and started to hand it to the lady, and she got offended. She was like, I don't need that, and gave me like an attitude because I wanted to prove who I was to go vote. But when you go to Maryland, allows illegal immigrants to get driver's licenses and bank accounts. So, and vote in local elections already. So when you walk into the DMV and they hand you the paperwork to fill out to get your picture for your driver's license there at the end, it says donor. So you want to be a organ donor, and do you want to register to vote? And they register anybody to vote right then and there. They're not checking for your citizenship. So an illegal immigrant walks in, gets a driver's license, and gets registered to vote.
Yes, yes, that is scary. I mean, but you're right. That's another thing is illegal immigrants or aliens, whatever you wish to call them, and to give them driving licenses. I said this a couple of years ago that once that starts, now, as I said, like your state gives them, okay, so now they're illegal, they're working. They decide to move to Indiana here, for argument's sake, right? All they got to do is go into DMV, show their Maryland driving license, answer a few questions on the computer, fill out the paperwork, and you got an Indiana license. Now they can go vote again. You know?
So I want to throw something out there because this is something that I have not researched. I don't know the answer to this question, and I kind of have a musing on it, but I don't know anything behind it. When we talk about those not eligible to vote for whatever purpose that might be, let's use the premise that we ran with here that they're in this country illegally. Has anybody seen any data that supports actually how many of those people get out and vote? Because when I sit back and I think about it, I think, okay, if they're here illegally and they're flying under the radar and, you know, as much as they can and all this other stuff, are they really, and they're not concerned enough to try to even become a citizen, but do they really care enough about politics to actually get out and go vote? Or is it a situation to where you have certain parties, and I won't mention because either party could do it, that round these people up and take them to the polls?
Well, that's exactly what it is. You know, 10 years ago, the Republicans loved illegal immigrants and the Democrats hated them. Now it's the opposite. The Democrats love them and the Republicans hate them. And it's all because they're going to harvest their ballots. That's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, there you go. They round them up and take them down the thing, and they get them to vote. I wouldn't be surprised they even pay them to vote. You know, they buy their votes.
Well, they buy their votes with all the social programs.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I've seen instances, and both parties do it, to where we'll pick you up in this lavish bus, and we have, you know, an open bar in the bus, and we'll take you to, you know what I'm saying? So, in a way, that's buying somebody's vote, I would think.
Yeah, or free gift cards or something, or this or that for anybody that attends, or things like that. I'm sure there's different ways. I would definitely think that we get rounded up to vote. I've seen certain times buses park different places with people getting
I mean,
stuff. So it definitely makes you wonder.
do you think a felon, because his right to vote stripped from him as well, isn't it? Is it forever or only while he's in jail?
Forever.
Now, is that right?
Yeah.
You think so? Even if he's served his time?
No.
I see. I forget sometimes that I'm talking to normal people. So when I said yes that quick, I'm assuming that when we're talking about felonies, we're talking about serious crimes, not I didn't pay my parking tickets for 10 years and I got a felony for that. I'm talking about murder, rape, drug cartel type of stuff like that. No. If you killed somebody, screw your rights. If you rape somebody, we should have killed you already, so you don't get no more rights.
Well, I mean, there's such a thing as like involuntary manslaughter and stuff like that. So I mean, even I think we have to be careful about that, in my opinion. But
yeah, I'm talking. Let me rephrase that: murder, intentional murder. If you accidentally hit somebody,
there needs to be some level of recourse where if you're a felon, you could go in and it's provable that you are now a productive member of society as well, right? You've gotten out, you did your time, you've gotten out, you've held a job for however many years, 3 years, 5 years, pick it, held a job, paid your taxes, you know what I mean? And you're quote unquote at that point a productive member of society. And then the recourse process maybe starts somehow. There definitely needs to be an easier way for most felons.
Yeah, I agree with
But
you.
what's to say that you're a productive member of society? I mean, I would venture to guess we could all say, hey, we know people that don't have felonies that probably have a squeaky clean record, but they're not doing anything productive for society. I think if you were incarcerated for any reason, things happen, you made a bad decision, whatever. But if you're able to walk free among the general public, you should have all your rights back.
That's why I think
if you're able to be trusted out in general public again and not be considered a threat, then you should have all your rights back.
I would concede to that if you give rapists life in prison.
And again,
if you give rapists 20 years,
I have no problem with that. If a rapist, if they said, hey, this guy cannot be rehabbed, he's going, to be a rapist if we put him back out on the street or something like that, then hey, put him in prison for life.
Well, that's exactly where I was going to go with that. I'm glad you brought that up, which was what's the probability of recidivism, right? With that. But then you get back into the whole same who declares you a productive citizen, who's to say that person is, what I'm saying, is reformed or whatever. Who's to say?
I wouldn't think there is a rehab. If somebody commits like a violent rape, I don't know. I think something's wired funny. Personally, I don't think you can rehab something like that.
Yeah, about the only way you can consistently do it would be by the offense.
Or if it's something where depending on the state, you had a 15-year-old girl and a 17-year-old boy that were dating and mom got mad or whatever, that I think is kind of crap. Not saying like it's okay, but that something like that to destroy your, I don't know. Seems like half the time nobody cares until somebody gets upset with some of those things. But forcibly jumped out of the shadows, beat you up and raped you, in my opinion, you should be shot.
Let me tell you a story. You throw the 15-17 thing in there, and anything that's like done in malice or whatever. So I know of a relationship that was a 16-year-old, and I think dude was like 20, 21. I mean, it was definitely over 18, right? Mom and dad had no problem. Mom and dad, they knew the families or whatever for years and everything else, right? This was going on. It happened under mom and dad's nose, in mom and dad's house, both willing participants and everything else. And one day, for whatever reason, there was a tussle, and mom and dad gets mad at him, and he gets locked up. And homegirl when she turns 18, marries him in jail.
Oh God.
Now, is that not a screwed up situation? You know, it's like everybody knows it's going on. Everything is consensual. They ended up after the fact getting married any freaking way, but we wasted all these resources and time and everything else on this what I seen as a silly case, where there's probably more legitimate stuff that needs to be pursued.
Well, that's the problem with the legal system.
Well, see, I think that it goes back to culture. You know, Rocall was kind of talking about it in his PPE video the other day. The people, because like outrage culture, like Clover's talking about, the parents got mad at this kid and they destroyed his life. Well, where's that? Let's see the evidence. Let's see the evidence chain, because evidence will lead to proof. So let's see the evidence chain that this guy is raping this girl. Yeah, is he older? Is she younger? The parents let him, hang out for 4 years, and then he said screw you to the dad one day, and now he's in jail. They'll throw something like that out into the news and throw that word rape on it, and now everybody's like, whoa, hold up, that's crazy. Nobody approves of rape, and if you approve of rape, you're a scumbag. Well, he didn't rape the girl. That's not what happened. He got charged with rape because of the age thing, and outrage culture allows it. It goes back to what you guys were talking about earlier with the marriage. The language has been so destroyed and abused over the years that, like, words don't mean what they're supposed to mean. And people don't know what words mean because it's been corrupted so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like that case Clover's talking about is the age thing. The law says if she's this age and you're having sexual relations with them, that's it. Who's talking?
I don't know what that was, but yeah, I mean, at a certain point, it does, regardless if it's consensual, regardless if he had permission from the parents. He should have better sense than to be doing it, because he knows that there is a statute when it comes to age. So in a way, though I went around it, I think that case was silly and a complete waste of time, especially after the fact. And hindsight, of course, is 2020. I look at a 21-year-old kid, whatever, with a 16-year-old girl, and I think, okay, he should have better sense than that. So part of it is on him.
Yeah, totally. If you're 21 and you just met a 16-year-old, shame on you. But if you guys grew up together and you've known each other for your entire lives, and then you can understand. I guess maybe Rob was talking about that earlier. Case by case basis, and actually giving somebody their day in court as opposed to rushing them through as fast as they can.
Yeah, but maybe you take your time and go slow. You know what I mean? You hang out, you have chaperones, you're never alone. You see what I'm saying? And then the day she turns 17 and can legally step away from her parents, then, do what you want to do.
Yeah, and people that did that lived those type of lifestyles, Clover, stayed married for 60 years. Where we don't do that anymore. So if you're married for 6 years, you hit a big milestone. When we had people who would the courting. You go out and take your girlfriend out on a date, and then you drop her off and you go home, as opposed to she comes over and you hang out in your bedroom and you're having sex the first night and you never leave your bedroom, and that's where you hang out at. I don't know. Maybe I'm just an old fuddy-duddy.
Well, I know people that and it may be around here, different culture, different place. So, I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. But around here, I could list off dozens of couples that got married either in high school or shortly after and are still together, up to, I can think of couples that have been married 40 years, definitely anywhere from 15 to 40 years. And I can name dozens. So, I'm real hesitant to say that, because I certainly don't advocate for people to get married and do all of that kind of stuff really young. It's definitely tough. Been there, done that. It's definitely tough. But there is, I don't think that this notion that if you get together at a young age, that it's ultimately doomed, I see absolutely no, at least in my area, I see absolutely no evidence of that.
Yeah. Oh, Rich White in the chat goes, I have 2 daughters. If either of them brought home a 21-year-old saying he was their boyfriend when they were 15 or 16, someone was looking to get shot. Well, I can understand that if they only just met him. But if they grew up, they were in the same neighborhood, same street, and they've known each other since for years. That's a hard one to call. I think personally,
there's always room for that, but I think Clover really hit it on the top of the head when he said, you should know better. Personal responsibility.
Yeah.
I get it. There are special cases where stuff works out and it's meant to be and true love and all that kind of stuff. But for the most part, if you're 21 and you're interested in a 16-year-old, I think you've got a problem. I don't care how long you've known her.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's jacked up, right? He went to prison for like 3 years. Okay, she married him while he was in prison. Okay, obviously because she was 16 when it happened. So you do the math, right? She was 16 when she turned 17. She went and married him, and she married him in prison. So obviously, yeah. So, and then they didn't actually get to start their lives together or anything till he got out. If they would have just waited till she turned 17, waited a year,
I was going to say
there would have been no problem. None.
Yeah.
So why not have the foresight to think about things like that?
Yes, you're right. Like the 21-year-old and her, they should have thought about that and said, no, we're going to wait till you're, you turn of age.
I think that's a failure of the parents a lot of times because, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You meet a girl and in 2 weeks you're in love with her. And in a year you guys are getting married. And then by the time the ink is dry on the wedding license, you guys are ready to get divorced. If the parents would teach their kids about taking their time, learning what they like about themselves, learning what they want in their future, you stop letting these kids become full-grown adults and teach these kids about love and sex and relationships. I think a lot of this will kind of stop. But most of the time it's you open the door, let the kid out, and whatever they drag back in the house, you deal with.
Yeah. But
I think.
Yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, I personally think teens need, obviously they're going to, we've all been teens. There's certain things that come to their mind or whatever, but basically a little more self-control would be ideal, I think. And it seems it'd be better for them to, like Kingpin said, have time to actually figure out who they are. I see a lot with girls where, it's almost like they're tired of their parents, so they avoid their parents to go hang out with the boyfriend, and then the boyfriend acts like their parents, where they're just being a prick all the time anyway. So it's like you're kind of topping a fence into a worse situation in a sense, where at least your parents, you'd like to think actually cared about you. So just things progress pretty quick sometimes with these kids, and I think that they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, to be honest. Again, look at all the young single mothers. They all believe the same story and end up in the same place. I just think statistically, it's better for you, to learn who you are, because with relationships, I think people grow either together or they grow apart. And if you didn't spend much time with one another, that's a 50-50 chance on top of the statistics that most marriages fail now anyway. So, it kind of cuts your slice of the pie down to, as good as going to buy a lotto ticket, in my opinion.
My nephew, he was 15. He's like 22 now. And he broke up with his first serious girlfriend, and it crushed him. He was exactly like you'd think a sitcom show 15-year-old would act. And I tried to explain to him, I was like, look, you're going to forget that girl's name in about 5 years. You know, it's not like you guys were going to get married and have a family. You're probably going to have 50 girlfriends in the next couple of years. And he wouldn't listen to me, and it just drove him crazy. And I told my coworker's son about the same thing. I was like, look, when you get a girlfriend, understand, try to like take it slow and don't worry about, being the greatest boyfriend in the world. Just be yourself. Let her accept you. He didn't listen to me. So he was heads over heels, madly in love, and she could do no wrong, and anybody who said anything was stupid as can be. Well, they broke up, and all the time he tells me, man, I wish I would have listened to you. I wish I would have listened to you. That was the worst 2-3 years of my life, however long he was together. And we were trying to, but he was in that cloud at the time of they're just hating. They just don't know. They don't know her like I do. Kind of like you hear the women that get abused, but he loves me. Oh, I shouldn't have made him mad. All the excuses that they make for when the man slaps the crap out of him. He was doing the same thing. She was treating him like crap, but he was so deeply in love, that's all he could think about. Because he was never told. He was sat down in front of a video game and let Xbox play.
Kingpin, as somebody who's been married 3 times, divorced twice, had kids, watched them grow up, and my parents were there when I asked them to be. When I went to them for advice, they were there for advice. I wouldn't have listened to a thing. I didn't listen to a thing. And I'm telling you, you can blame the parents all you want. You can do all that crap. Maybe you're talking about parents that aren't available when the kid says, hey, do you got some time? I want to talk to you. But I've been straight with my kids, and I still don't think that's going to make a lick of difference. Now, I wish my parents were a little bit more straight with me, not candy coating. But even if they were, I still was going to do what I was going to do. At a certain point, they're legal adults. They have to make their own mistakes. They have to fall on their face. If you just keep catching them and catching them and catching them, they don't learn a thing. And you might go, well, yeah, but now they got divorced, or now they got, kids, and there's parenting time. Yep, this is an unfortunate thing about our society. They make getting married so easy. They make having children so easy. They make getting a divorce and finding a way to co-parent the kids damn near impossible. And as far as when you're young and you're in love and you're not listening to anybody else, that's hormones, and that's anybody who's young and in love. I don't care if you're male. I don't care if you're female. I don't care if your parents are helicopter parents or they're not around. You're going to do what you're going to do, and you cannot account for your kids 24/7. There were things I snuck around and did behind my parents back, and my parents were I thought they were, pretty much on top of what I was doing. But I also knew better than to do some certain things that were going to put me in jail or cost my parents money, so maybe they did right in that fashion, and hopefully I've done that with my kids. But I know that there are things that my kids can be doing when they're not at home or when I'm at work that I have no control over. I can take certain precautions, like keeping all the guns locked or teaching them firearm safety, or sitting down and having some serious talks with them, explaining to them how child support works, or that you can get arrested for it. You know what? My son came to me the other day. He wants to go buy a brand new car, and he can afford a brand new car, but he has zero credit. And he thinks if you just walk into the car dealership and go, I can put this much down and I make this much a month, give me a car, they're just going to, he had no idea. It's the same thing with love and relationships and everything else. When you're young, you have this idea of the world, and the world is going to disappoint you. I've told all of my children this from the earliest, years is I'm not going to hold back. The world will disappoint you. I've tried to give them valuable lessons, like only be friends with people who can accept you even when you don't agree and stuff like that. But are they always going to run with it? Maybe, maybe not. One of my kids was a kind of really lazy in school, in high school. He barely passed high school. We tried to get him to get a job. We tried him to do after school sports. He didn't want to do anything. He didn't hardly even want to go to school. And a week after high school, he got his very first job. On his first day, he worked 10 hours. And I think within a month, he bought his own car, cash. All right. Totally flipped the tables. I had absolutely no idea this kid was going to be like, I did not think, I thought for sure he was going to be living in my basement until he was 40 and never get a job. And he showed me. And, it's just, you never know what you're going to get with your kids, but especially when they get in their late teens and when they get 18 and over, you've got to kind of let them go. And it hurts. It hurts because you see that they're doing something that is stupid, and you can warn them and you can do this. But at the end of the day, they're still going to do what they're going to do. So I'm just giving you that from my personal experience as a child, as a husband, as a father. I've seen it from one end to the other.
Well, there you go. I agree with you to a certain degree. When you get to a certain age, no matter what you say, the kids are going to do. Very rarely they listen to you. They've already made their mind up, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Squib is saying, but I also think that there's a really, really strong capacity for blaming the parents. If your 16-year-old daughter walks in the house, 15-year-old daughter walks in the house pregnant, a lot of that falls on the parents. I mean, I get it. The girl's going to do what she wants. She can't watch the kid 24 hours a day. But when you look at the broad picture, at the amount of 16-year-old girls that are having babies right now, it goes back to the culture problem, which is the parents' problem.
Now, is it because, you said a culture problem, is it because both parents are working today flat out to survive and they really don't, live with their, teach their kids anything?
I think it has a little bit to do with what is out there in society. It has to do with a little bit of disconnect with the parents. I think you've got a lot of parents. I see a lot of parents that want to be their kid's friend first, and they don't realize that I realize it with my kids now because they're grown, and then I also realize it with I realized it growing up with my parents that the friend dynamic comes once you've grown and experienced life outside of your parents' house and that sort of stuff. That's sort of when the friendship, really sets in. A meaningful friendship, I think, really sets in. So, I don't think you can nail it down to one specific thing. I think it's a bunch of different things. And, I think that it's going to be a lot of kids break the cycle and break the mold. So, I know kids that come from, horrible family backgrounds and stuff like that, and they're great parents and they're great, people and everything else. But then I know a lot that you can attribute to, they're growing up in their background. And so it's affected their self-esteem and their self-worth and all of that. And I think that parents tend to put a lot of emphasis with raising kids, a lot of emphasis in superficial things, rather than, building that child's confidence and self-esteem. And I think that's one of the two most important things you can do.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I basically agree as well. I think in some sense with what Kingpin said, some of it does fall to the parents, I think. In the end, it's just out of anybody's control what they do, I think. But the options and opportunities that you may be able to give them, and not necessarily financially, that could be time to speak with you, time with just you, or different things. But I almost lost for the words here. The lifestyle you live, I think, has a big idea. Who's in your life, how things work out, the influence that's around, I think does play a heavy role besides school, social media, all that stuff. And a lot of people just don't tend to really point out what is right from wrong because, in my opinion, the culture kind of destroys that. So I think parents do hold a little bit of this because it's a lot easier just to do your own thing and get by than it is to actually take time to try to, instill a lesson or something like that. That's from what I see anyway. So it seems like in a lot of cases, the kids run the show, which to me just is mind boggling, but that's what it seems.
What I remember the most that I wanted, more from my dad than my mom, but from my mom too, is when I have a question or I need some help, I want to come to you. Whether you're teaching me how to do research for a school project or you're teaching me how to polish boots, or whatever it is. That's what I wanted the most, is when I come to you for help, that you're there for me. I don't care that you buy me the world. I don't care that we go out and do all kinds of family stuff. I don't care about all this. But the thing is, with my mom, when I would go to her for something, she would make the time for me. But I went to her because Dad wasn't there. Then when Dad was there, I went to Dad because Dad had a skill or experience that I wanted to know. I wanted to know how to do this, how to do that. So that's what I remember the most about what my parents did for me, as far as when I came to them. And I've always tried to do that and then some for my kids. When I'm going out to fix something, hey, you guys want to come with me, learn how to do it? Most of the time they don't. Every now and then they do. But then when they do have a problem and it's like, hey, can you help me fix this? Didn't I offer to show you how to do this last year when I fixed it? Yeah, but... And I stop what I'm doing and I make time for them, or I say, no, we're not going to do this right now. We're going to do this later. And we do it later. I make sure that later happens, but I'm there for them. I give them that, look, this is why I do this. This is why I do that. And you might say, well, that's kind of useless. They can read it out of a book. They can watch a YouTube video. They can get that from me. That's true. But while we're sitting there doing that, that's where we get our time to talk. And when we get together as a family and we do most of our family, I guess, the bonding we do or whatever, that's really on the family vacations. And I do try to turn the vacations into learning experiences as well. And at first I didn't think the kids were really paying attention, but then after so long, I did. I don't turn family vacation into, sorry, Mom and Dad work all the time. I turn family vacation into, you have no choice but to spend time with us. And they've been fantastic. They've been things that we will never forget. Somebody might go, oh, you spend a lot of money and you're just trying to buy your kids. No. That's not why we do them. We do them because you'll never get that time back. And as far as some of the choices they make in their lives, though, they're going to do things that are different than what I would have done. Just like I've done things that my parents would never have done or never have agreed to or never would have liked this, or whether it's what kind of food they eat or who they marry or what kind of job or what part of the country or how they vote or whatever it is. At a certain point, your kids are individuals. They're not clones. They're not carbon copies. They may do some things like you. They may have some of the same interests. Hopefully, when you're teaching them, you're being objective and you're letting them grow and become their own individual self. You're not teaching them and twisting their arm so that they're just like you, because when you do that, they'll run from you. And then they won't come to you when they do have a problem, and they will get in trouble because they just think you're trying to run them or control their life or make them into somebody they don't want to be. And sometimes it's really hard when your kid has an interest that you have no concept of. It's really hard as a parent. You're just sitting there going online, researching this stuff, trying to figure this stuff out so you can try to be a better parent. And then 6 months later, they're not interested in it anymore. It's like, what did I do all that for? So it's not just as easy as setting up and doing homework every night with little Timmy, or making sure that one parent stays home, or that we all sit down and have dinner together, or whatever. I think each family can make their own decisions, their own choices on how they want their family dynamic to be. And unless they're raising kids to be criminals, don't worry about it.
Oh, there you go. I was, while you guys are talking, I'm sitting here thinking about my childhood. My father was in the military. We traveled all over the place. Half the time, my mother didn't want to go to where he was going, so we stayed in England. So so a lot of times when my father showed up, he was like a stranger to me, and I had to learn to figure out who he was. But he taught me stuff, but we didn't have a lovey-dovey relationship, our family. It really wasn't. It was kind of hard and cold, actually. But so I find it hard to relate to what you're saying, Squib, on that family vacations. We never did that either. You know, I can only ever remember one family vacation we went on, and it wasn't a good family vacation. I don't have fond memories of it. You know, and
So
of course,
picture
I
this.
have
sorry.
kids. You know, I get divorced. You know, and that divorce. I mean, it all happened. It was my fault. You know, if I mean, be honest with you, if I could have it to do again, I would have totally done it different. But hey, that's life. My kids have turned out great without me being in their life every day. So I don't know if I don't know if that's good or bad, but you know, my kids talk to me and stuff, which is good. But you know, I don't know.
In the beginning, the family vacations where the kids would sleep in the car. We'd be passing all kinds of stuff saying, hey, kids, look at this. They didn't care, whatever. And when we got there, all they wanted to do was, where are we eating and where's the gift shop? And as they started to get older, I tried to find ways to make it fun. I remember one trip, right before we went on the trip, they sat down with me and watched like an hour-long documentary on the Hoover Dam. Now, these kids don't sit and watch documentaries. They watch it and they're all kind of bored, and I'm explaining this, explaining that. Week later, 2 weeks later, we're at the Hoover Dam, and they're going, hey, we saw that. Hey, we saw that. Hey, we know what this is. Hey, let's go find where they buried the dog. They were paying attention, but the whole time they didn't look like they were paying attention. When they got there, they were more interested in seeing some of the historical stuff and more interested in hearing what the tour guide had to say and everything else like that. And you just have to kind of get creative with the stuff. And yes, we did go to the gift shop, and yes, we did go to the restaurant and stuff like that too. But there's ways you can do that, and it doesn't have to be a mom and dad feel guilty for ignoring you kind of trip. It can be a, let's go somewhere where we've never been before. Let's see things we've never seen before, and let's understand why these are here, why they are the way they are. I always love to try to integrate history into the trips, in addition to all the other things we do, because I want my children to understand where we came from. I also want my kids to see the whole country so they can see that everything is not like Southeast Michigan. There are so many people here that know Southeast Michigan and Disney World, and that's it. And they think the rest of the country is just like here, and it is not. Being somebody who's moved all over, it is not. And I think it's good for my kids. But some other parent may say, that's unnecessary. Well, they're your kids. You raise them your way. I'll raise them my way.
Yeah, I agree with you. So anyway, real quick before we carry on, let me do my quiz from last week. Very disappointed, guys. I'm very disappointed. I got 3 entries, so you all got 33 and a third % chance of winning. So just wanted to bring that. The question I asked was, of the Henry rifle, how many were actually purchased by the government during the Civil War? And I said approximately. And the figure I found was 1,731 were actually purchased by the government. The Commonwealth of Kentucky purchased 50. You know, but it says, however, 6,000 to 7,000 saw use by the Union on the field through private purchases by soldiers who could afford it. So that was the answer I was looking for.
There was one Michigan regiment, I think, that was equipped with them, and they were captured by the Confederates. So there were a lot of people who had privately owned or captured weapons during the war because everybody was desperate to get their hands on something.
Yeah, and it also goes on to say that a lot of Union soldiers bought them with their re-enlistment pay that they got to stay in the Army for one more year. You know, so all right, my winner. Let's see who's my winner. Hitting my button. Here we go. 2 Live Moo is the winner. So there we go. 2 Live Moo, you won. So let me write your name down before I don't forget it to send it out. 2 Live Moo. Okay. All right. The question for this week. I think it's kind of easy. But it's to do with the movie John Wick 3. And the question is, Winston, he's the guy that Ian McShane, is that how you pronounce his name? Who runs the Continental Hotel? What firearm, make and model, did he offer to John Wick at the executive lounge? That's it. That's the question. So, what firearm, make and model, did he offer to John Wick at the executive lounge? That's from John Wick 3. That's the question. Email me at rickslifeasiseeit@gmail.com or spottedrick@gmail.com. Get it into me by noon time, Eastern Standard Time. And the swag pack could be yours. There you go. Okay, moving on. What else was I going to talk about today? I didn't have a lot, but there was something else, and I can't remember what the hell it was now.
Got out shooting, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I went shooting yesterday. And for people who are interested, I took my new 1875 Outlaw, in 45 Colt, and I reloaded some of my own stuff and my own brass, brand new brass and everything else, done all that. They fired faultlessly. Not one problem at all. Now, that I hit the target is another story. I'm having trouble with those because that damn, what would you call it? Tunnel sight or whatever it is on top and stuff, lining it all up. I'm having a hell of a time.
Sight.
What?
I think it's a channel sight.
Channel sight. That's the word I was looking for.
Or gutter sight. You shooting high or low, Rick?
Shooting low.
Yeah. Doesn't surprise me. Single actions, I find that's typically the case with people with single actions. So you're gonna have to play around. Those big front blades, just play around with that. Focus on that front sight, and then you'll figure out where that front blade on your cowboy action stuff really tall, right? So it's not like a semi-automatic where you got the little nub, and so you really got to get used to that. Because a lot more of that's going to stick up than you're used to, right? When you line the dots up, or you line your sights up on a semi-automatic single action, those old Army pistols or revolvers way different. So you're going to have a lot of that front sight up there. Just get used to figuring out where your point of aim is on there with that sight, and then once you get used to that sight picture, it's all easy from there. Don't even pay attention to don't even pay attention to the gutters. But for me, okay. I don't ever even hardly pay attention to them because it doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. Also, when I was shooting, I also took, that what I was moaning about last week, my MagTech Action Cowboy Action $50 of 50 that I bought is giving me grief. Well, I used my bullet puller and pulled out 5 of those. Reloaded them. I put the brass through the, through my press to resize it. You've got mail. Used my powder. Used the same bullet. Put them on. Now the 5 I did worked without a problem. Good. But I tried. I still have some of the others, so I put 5 in there. And I span it around. It span, no problem. I could feel it. It turned. I could feel it barely rubbing. But as soon as I started shooting it, it would jam up the cylinder. It wouldn't turn. So it's a real pain in the ass. So I had to pull the pin back out to get the cylinder out to take that ammo out. So I went back to my own reloads and shot them with no problem. So
what you're saying is once fired brass works really good, but if it hasn't been fired yet, it's not working right.
Out of that MagTech stuff I got, yes.
Oh, okay, but it's just okay. My bad. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've never had good luck with anything MagTech. I just hadn't.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking of doing, either, it's going to either pull the bullets from all of them and resize the brass and go that way, or just shoot one or two at a time. Line them up with the just line them up and shoot them like that, one at a time.
Well, have you? And I don't know. It depends on what dies you have as to whether or not you can do this. But can you size them with the projectiles with them loaded? Can you pull the decapping pin and everything from your die? And
yeah, I could.
And swage them more or less.
I mean, I use a Lee die, and I think you could do that. But I thought they recommended people not to resize loaded.
Yeah, what Clover's talking about? The first time I heard you talk about this, Rick, I was thinking the same thing. Hey, Clover, would you consider that just like the bulge buster for the unsupported chambers, the same kind of effect?
Yeah. I mean, if we were talking rifle cartridges, I would say you need a small base sizing die, right? It's sort of the same. I think it's the same thing he's got going on. I think they're out of spec at the very tip of the base. They're out of spec.
Yes.
So for the non-reloaders, let me explain. So on Glocks, they have an unsupported chamber. So if you're picking up brass at the range and you don't know what guns have been fired out of, and you've got 9, 40, 45 straight wall, or I guess 10 millimeter, maybe not so much 357 SIG, and they're straight wall, and they've been fired out of a Glock. Glock has an unsupported chamber. So when you go to reform that brass and reload it, and you go to use it in another gun, you may have a problem chambering it or something else like that. So what you have to do is a process called base sizing. And some of the companies have got different kits. Lee's got one. Redding's got one. I don't know if anybody else does. But you more or less run that brass through a base sizer, one extra step, to ensure that it will cycle in a Glock or any other gun. Yeah. And, some people might go, that's extra work. I don't want to do it. Reloading can be a lot of work, or it could be a little bit of work. But if you're getting into it, for one reason or another, you're going to get the reward eventually. But if you're firing your own brass and it's not out of a Glock, and all your pickups are your own, you don't have to do it.
Right.
Or if you get new brass, you don't have to do it. But as a precaution, like at the range I go to, when it opens up again, I can pick up all the brass I want, and I have no idea what it's come out of. And I've seen all kinds of different stuff on the ground and in the buckets there. So I base size all the 45 AARP I pick up off the ground.
Do you think that continuing, like you had said, that you were just going to shoot one of those MagTechs at a time, do you think that it could possibly mess up your gun functionally and aesthetically? Like, would it put scratches in it that you don't feel like seeing, or could it mess up your gun doing that? Or are you talking about load the chamber, fire, open the gun, load the chamber, fire?
I mean, that's what I was talking about doing. If I put it in the cylinder and spin the cylinder, it will scratch the back of the the cylinder plate. Is that what it's called? When the bullet's turning around in the cylinder, it will scratch that black because it's sticking on the back of it.
A little bit, yeah.
It could end up putting a groove in it eventually. So I don't want to do that. So I'm thinking I might try that. I might take out the decapping pin and just see if I can resize them that way.
And you are turning 90 degree or whatever, right? Or 45 degree, or at least something when you're doing it, right?
Yes.
Size it, turn it, size it. Okay.
Yes, that's what I've been doing. On the 5 that worked. That's what I did. I resized it, turned it, resized it, turned it, resized it, turned it about 4 times.
Right. Yeah.
And they worked. So,
Gotcha.
yeah. It's an extra lot of work, but, you know.
Well, that's the myth a lot of times. And, when you get into reloading, I mean, there's a couple of myths. One is that, oh, it's easy. It's easy. Well, it is, but people a lot of times conflate easy with it's quick. and it's really not. And then saving money is the other big myth, because you're really not going to save money unless you get in some crazy calibers or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, when there's a panic and everybody's buying all the ammo, you go down to the store and there's no ammo, and you've got tons of components. Then I mean, I guess you can't really equate that to saving money, but can you? Because now you're not paying the jacked up prices.
That's true.
So you can laugh all the way to the bank.
Well, that's true. And I mean, even if you take into consideration that time is money, and you take into consideration gas, because a lot of people outload shotgun shells, a couple boxes, and go hunting. And people are like, you can buy those. You can just buy those for $5 a box. I could if I wanted to drive 30 minutes one way into town, go into the store, buy the, you know what I mean? And I could load a box of 12 gauge, 28 gauge, whatever gauge right here in less than 5 minutes. So,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
It cost me? It cost me about between $4 and $5 a box to load it, but I don't got to get in the truck. I don't got to spend the gas. I don't got to hassle with the people in the store. Nothing. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I like doing it. I find it therapeutic reloading.
There you go.
So that's what I do. So, Watchcall just got into reloading here in the chat. Jason Stewart. He's got the whole setup now.
Oh, nice.
That's what he said. I can find his. Oh yeah, he got 2 presses, almost everything I need or ordered. He's going to empty some brass this weekend and get started. There you go. If you got questions, you can always email me. I'll try to answer them on reloading, or Clover Tech or Squib. They've been doing it a lot longer than I have. Most reloaders will help you out if you ask them. So
be more than happy.
Yeah. So anybody else got anything else you want to talk about? No. New York Outcast. How's your staying holding up? You taking it out anymore?
No, not yet. Unfortunately, I was actually hoping to go today. So.
How's your paper one working?
Oh, that works great. I've used the initial one for over a year and, love it. So I've been asked if I've ever shot my paper roll or marker or tape, and no, I haven't. I have gotten a base though, so but didn't destroy nothing. It held up fine, unlike DMUC or something. So it's been working out well. So I did have a question for you, or for anybody out there. I assume when Rick's New Birdie, when the original was made, there might have been a difference on what was acceptable on, grouping in a sense. I don't know if that's true, and if that is the case, has it changed? I'd assume modern firearms with better technology, you can probably expect better results. Back then, they might have been happy with just hitting a 10-inch circle or something at 25 feet. Is there a big difference with that, or I'm just curious.
I'm wondering if back then there might be more inconsistencies with the ammunition more so than the guns.
That's what I was thinking.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Now,
just curious, because the way he was stating how it's hard with the front blade and take some practice. I think you got to find your personal sweet spot on the height of the blade.
Mm-hmm. A single action revolver, and a lot of your cowboy action stuff is this way. Shotgunning is point and shoot, right? I mean, there's really no aiming with shotgunning. And cowboy action stuff, in particular with single actions, are sort of the same way. It's more a muscle memory, getting used to it, and wherever you see is where you shoot, pretty much. That's where you've got the practice with quick draw, and I mean everything else that are shooting from the hip and all of that. It's muscle memory that they know that a certain way they're going to shoot wherever they're looking, and that's kind of what you got to get used to.
As opposed to instinct shooting, right? Or does that kind of go hand in hand? Would you say?
Kind of like instinct shooting, yeah. It's kind of like that. I mean, if you everyday carry, hopefully you're this way. Hopefully you practice enough. If you everyday carry, that you could literally be standing in front of a target and blindfold yourself, draw and hit it.
Yeah, I practice that.
Yeah. And so it's the same.
How
It's
close
the same
of
way.
a range?
How close to
How
range?
close of a range?
Man, if you're talking about self-defense, I mean, as long as you can get the silhouette, you're good, right?
Yeah, I'm just curious, at what distance you're thinking.
I do it about maybe 10 yards.
Yeah, 10 or closer. I mean, I definitely wouldn't do it any further away than that. I don't think you're going to be very far away in a situation where you're not going to be able to see and you're going to take a chance at shooting. I don't see being a self-defense situation at 25 yards is probably going to be rare, and in 25 yards where you've got very low visibility or something's up, it's going to be even more rare. So,
and at 25 yards, is it really immediate danger to you?
Exactly. Yeah. So long as you
I
can do it
tried
close.
shooting at a smoke detector blindfolded and rigged the button up to keep beeping. And it was a radiator box, and I was able to pretty much hit that box, but it took quite a while to hit a 8-inch smoke detector. So,
Okay.
I will stay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out the range there, so see how bad I am compared to that. But
yeah, I said I got to practice with that Birdie, the 1875 some more, But I did notice though, it man, when that thing's cocked, that trigger, oh God, a couple of times I pulled the hammer back and got it, and before I knew it, I thought my finger just barely touched the trigger, and I shot into the dirt like I didn't shoot myself.
Yeah, single action, man. There's some sweet triggers.
Oh yeah. So, but I had fun with it. So that's what I bought it for, was to take it down there and have fun with it. So. All right, I'm going to wind this one up because my cats are scratching my legs here. They're getting hungry. So I'm going to wind this up. Have you guys got anything else you want to talk about? No? Okay, let's go through the room here for shout-outs and plugs. You got anything, New York?
nope. Just have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. All right, Clover
Thanks for
Tech.
having me.
Anything?
I can't think of anything. Always a pleasure. Good, well-rounded conversation today. We covered a lot of really offbeat topic stuff, I think. So
yeah, because I'm getting
really
tired of talking about COVID-19.
I understand. So it's a good chat. Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, Squib, got anything?
Well, at the rate I'm going, I might end up making a gardening video for the end of the day, but I don't know when I'm going to publish it. Otherwise, thanks for the invite. And yeah, I agree with Clover. It's a well-rounded conversation today.
Yeah, you got plenty of time because she extended your stay at home to the 14th of June. So
what?
Your governor extended your stay at home order.
Huh.
That's what I read this morning.
I feel a Squib video coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. I wonder what she's trying to accomplish with that. I will tell you, I saw something I haven't seen in 2 months today. Brand new cars in some auto racks getting pulled by a train. I haven't seen any new cars being shipped in 2 months. So it was a good sign. I haven't got recalled back to work yet, but yeah, I wonder what. Okay, if she's going to open up the state in stages and we're on stage 2 of 6, extending the order kind of is See, this is more, it doesn't make any sense. Not a tyrant. She's an idiot. She's a moron.
I know I shouldn't have brought it up.
Imagine if she was smart, she'd be dangerous.
No, I know.
Just dropped a bomb, Rick.
Yeah, I should have kept my mouth shut. Kingpin, got anything?
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Really, really great conversation today. Check out G23. He'll be coming up at 6 Eastern, and Black Cat's got a couple beers in him, so he might do a live show right after this one. So while you're out there, encourage him to tilt up that beer so we can get a beer chat for Saturday afternoon.
All right. I do want to say, don't forget, it's Memorial Day weekend. Remember what it's all about. It's not about barbecuing and having a good time. It's about the people who gave us the country we got, the country we're meant to have today. And I think us here understand what it's all about. You know,
There's one thing.
Lost their life, for our country.
A lot of people say that the soldiers, sacrificed and their families sacrificed, and many of them died and got injured defending the Constitution, which is totally true. But the depth and the truth about it is they died defending us. When Squibb had that uniform on, he was doing that for me, not some piece of paper down in Washington, D.C. So if you personalize it, that piece of paper is important to me, and Squibb defending that piece of paper means he was defending me and my family.
Absolutely. All right, guns and barbecue. You got any shouts or plug outs?
Just my usual thanks to everybody that's been supporting me, helping me grow along the way. I always feel like I forget to mention people. Thanks for having me, and as you said, obviously I have barbecue in my name, and I was going to mention, don't forget what the upcoming holiday is about. It's not about, getting drunk and having a good time and, cooking barbecue or anything like that. It's about, the fallen and memorializing them. So,
yeah, you're right. Absolutely right. But then again, how to put it? The reason we can have a barbecue is because of what they did. Otherwise, we could be all speaking German or Japanese today, So, anyway, I think I got everybody, didn't I? I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat for showing up. I really appreciate it. I'll be back on Wednesday at 7 p.m. with Shooting with Disabilities. I hope to see you all there. Stop by. We always ramble on about something. So I want to say thank you all. Have a great weekend. And I will see you all later. So goodbye, everybody.
Peace.
All right.